Just like with whole numbers, we are going to line up our numbers based on place value, and one of the big places to look is to make sure that you line up your decimal points. So when you're writing the numbers, you want to make sure you line up the decimal point. And then you're going to drop down your decimal and forget about it. And the reason I say forget about it is because you want to add as if there were no decimals involved. You're going to add like normal. You're going to start with your very right side place and you're going to add to the left just like normal, okay? And we're going to do some examples so that you'll be able to see exactly what I'm talking about. Let's say I am adding the decimals 1 300ths plus 3600ths. So step 1 said to line up my decimal points. So I'm going to take that 1 300ths and be very careful to line up my decimal places, my decimal points. Then step 2 says to drop down your decimal and forget about it. So we're not going to even worry about this decimal anymore. So it's kind of like I'm going to think about adding 103 plus 36. This is what I'm going to be thinking, because I'm going to ignore that the decimal even occurs, okay? For right now anyways. So we're adding these. So go ahead and try to add these. Push pause, and then you can check it. Okay. So 6 and 3 is 9. 3 and 0 is 3. 1 and 0 is 1. So my sum is 1 3900ths. Over here, if I had just added whole numbers, I would have got 139. But that decimal was important because it was a matter of 139 whole numbers versus one whole number. So dropping down your decimal, if you just drop it, boom, okay, and forget about it, you're going to get the correct answer. Okay, let's try another example. What if I had 356 2/10 plus 12 4500ths? Step 1, line up my decimal points. Now, in order to be successful when we talk about subtraction, we're going to practice something with addition. We're always going to put zeros in to hold the place to make it that much easier to add, and it's going to save you a lot of headaches when you subtract. So I put that 0 in even though it wasn't here in my original number. So I want you to drop down your decimal. You're done with it, and add like normal. So go ahead and pause. Okay, so you should have added your hundredths, which is 5, your tenths, which is 6, your ones, which is 8, your tens, which is 6, and your hundredths, which is 3. So your sum is 368 and 6500ths. Let's try one where we're going to have to do some regrouping. 17 4900ths plus 9 8/10. Step 1, line up your decimals. Okay, remember we're going to use the 0 just to hold place because it's going to save us a lot of heartache in subtraction. Then we drop down our decimal, okay, and add like normal. So I want you to push pause. Okay, 9 and 0 in my hundredths place is 9. 8 and 4, I remember that 8 plus 2 is 10. Add 2 more is 12. Going to regroup just like normal. There's nothing special I do here. 9 and 1 more is 10, plus 7 is 17. Regroup. So my sum is 27 and 2900ths. we are going to practice something that you're going to see sometime with decimals. So I'm going to go ahead and erase this so I have some room. Still trying to do this on your student side. You want to make sure you don't write so big that you can't have room to do all these examples. What if I'm adding, say I have $2.10 and Mom gives me $5. When I'm adding, I need to line up the decimal, but I don't see any decimals here. All whole numbers have imaginary decimals at the end, because another way to write $5 is $5, correct? So always think of all whole numbers having an imaginary decimal. So here we could say $2.10 plus $5. Go ahead and put my zeros in. That way I don't, what happens is sometimes you guys will do $2.10 and just put your 5 right here. And you're going to get a totally different answer than when you do it the correct way. You have 10 cents and 0 cents, that's 10 cents. $5 and $2 is $7, so you have $7.10. If you had added like this, you would have said that you had $2.15, which wouldn't even be reasonable if Mom had given you a $5 bill. How in the world could you only have $2, right? Let's do another example where that happens. If we had 7 and 21/100ths plus 11. Let's say this is time we're talking about. Maybe it's race. Maybe this is someone's results in a race. 7 and 21/100ths of a second and 11 seconds. So I'm going to line up my decimals. And what did I tell you all whole numbers have? An imaginary decimal behind them. So that's going to ensure that I do my decimal points in the correct spot instead of doing it wrong and adding like that. That is not the right way. Just like this is not the right way. So with that, I can add in my imaginary zeros, or my placeholder zeros actually, and ensure that I add this correctly. So go ahead and pause, but first drop down your decimal. 1 and 0 is 1, 2 and 0 is 2, so I have 21/100ths. 11 plus 7 is 18, so total time for those two races, let's say that's what it was 18 and 21/100ths of a second.